I thought I'd seen every kind of trouble on Helix 7. Then one human girl broke 3 armored Krath soldiers with her bare fists. Look, I have been working security on Station Helix 7 for the better part of 6 cycles now, and let me tell you something. I thought I had seen everything. Brawls between Drenthian cadets over mating displays, check. Methane breathers accidentally wandering into oxygen sectors and passing out, double check. A Quilvan trying to smuggle live prey animals into the dormitories. Do not even get me started on that particular disaster. But humans were something entirely different. My name is Vorin, and I am a Vrelian. We are not the biggest species in the Galactic Council, not by a long shot, but we are steady, reliable. We make excellent security officers because we do not panic easily, we follow protocol, and we have 4 eyes. Yes, 4. It makes surveillance significantly easier when you can watch multiple corridors simultaneously without turning your head. Station Helix 7 is home to the Galactic Naval Academy, the most prestigious military training facility in this sector of space. Cadets come here from 217 different species, all crammed into one massive rotating station that orbits a beautiful but utterly useless gas giant. The view is stunning. The interpersonal dynamics, absolutely chaotic. The Academy prides itself on integration, on teaching future officers to work together across species lines. Noble goal, really. In practice, it means you get territorial displays, dominance hierarchies, and the occasional full-scale riot when someone insults someone else's ancestral breeding grounds. Humans had only been part of the Council for about 30 standard years when this incident happened. They were still the new kids, still figuring out where they fit in the grand pecking order of galactic civilization. Most species looked at them and saw fragile little mammals, soft skin, no natural armor, no claws, no venom sacs, no exoskeleton. They broke easily, died from things that would barely inconvenience a proper species. The human cadets kept to themselves mostly. There were maybe 40 of them on station at any given time, out of nearly 3,000 total cadets. They studied hard, stayed polite, did not cause trouble. Some of the other species saw that as weakness, saw it as an invitation. I had noticed tension building for weeks. The Krath cadets in particular had taken to pushing the humans around. Small things at first, cutting in line at the nutrition dispensers, taking their preferred training equipment, bumping into them in the corridors and acting like it was the humans' fault. The humans never pushed back. They just smiled those weird, flexible-faced smiles and moved on. I remember thinking that was smart of them. Keep your head down, survive the academy, get your commission, move on with your life. Solid strategy. What I did not understand, what none of us understood at the time, was that humans do not just have one strategy. They have this thing, this switch that flips when you cross a certain line. I was about to learn exactly where that line was. And honestly, I wish someone had warned me first. The Krath are, without question, some of the most physically intimidating species in the Academy. They stand roughly 8 feet tall, built like walking slabs of armored muscle. Their skin has this thick, ridged texture that can deflect most small-caliber projectiles. They have got 6 limbs, 4 of which they use for locomotion, and 2 massive arms that end in hands capable of crushing steel pipes. Their home world has 3 times standard gravity, which means they move through our station like they are wearing weighted training gear that just got removed. They are also, and I mean this with all due respect to any Krath reading this report, massive jerks when they want to be. The 3 I am talking about were named Druktar, Venzak, and Korvath. Real charming individuals. They had already racked up 2 formal reprimands for excessive force during combat training exercises and 1 unofficial warning for intimidating other cadets in the communal areas. But they were good soldiers, tactically sound, and the Academy tends to overlook personality flaws if your test scores are high enough. Their favorite target, for reasons I still do not fully understand, was a human cadet named Marcus Webb. Marcus was, how do I put this gently, not physically impressive. He stood maybe 5.5 feet tall, weighed perhaps 140 pounds soaking wet, and had this nervous energy that made him seem even smaller. He wore standard-issue Academy glasses, because apparently his species had not gotten around to fixing his vision genetically. He was in the engineering track, not combat, which meant he spent most of his time with datapads and circuit boards rather than weapons. In short, he was the exact kind of target that bullies across the galaxy instinctively lock onto. I was doing my evening rounds through the training deck, which at that hour was mostly empty. Most cadets were at evening nutrition or in their quarters. I heard voices echoing from one of the auxiliary combat rooms, the kind used for hand-to-hand practice. Something in the tone made my sensory spines tingle. I should have gone in immediately. Protocol says intervene at first sign of conflict. But here is the thing. I had tried intervening before with these three, and it always ended the same way. They would back off, file a complaint about security harassment, and their family connections would make my life difficult for the next week. So I hesitated. I positioned myself where I could observe through the doorway without being obvious. Marcus was backed against the padded training wall. All three Kroth were advancing on him in a semicircle, cutting off any escape routes. This was not going to end well. Drukthar was doing the talking, because of course he was. He was the leader of this particular pack of idiots, the one who always had something to prove. "You stepped on my foot earlier, human," he rumbled, his voice like rocks grinding together in a landslide. In the corridor outside the quantum mechanics lecture hall, Marcus's voice came out thin, reedy. I did not mean to. It was crowded, and I apologized right away. You said it was fine." "I lied," Drukthar said, and I swear I could hear the smile in his voice. "I wanted to see if you would be stupid enough to believe me." The other two Krath spread out wider, blocking any potential exit. Then Zack cracked his knuckles, which for a Krath sounds like someone snapping tree branches. Korvath just stared, his four eyes gleaming with anticipation. I saw a few other cadets hovering near the entrance behind me. A pair of Centauri, one Vulcan, and what looked like a Korathian observer. None of them moved to help, they just watched with that horrible fascination species have when they know something terrible is about to happen but cannot look away. I reached for my comm unit. I should call this in, get back up, follow procedure. But my hand hesitated on the device. If I intervened now, it would be my word against theirs. Marcus would probably be too scared to testify properly. The Kroth would claim it was just a misunderstanding, just cadets talking. Their families would complain. My supervisor would give me that look, the one that said I was making problems where none existed. I am not proud of this moment. I am documenting it here because honesty matters in official reports, even when it makes you look bad. I did not call it in. I just watched. Marcus tried to sidestep, tried to slip past Venzak on the left. The Krath caught him with one massive hand, fingers wrapping completely around Marcus's upper arm. He lifted the human off the ground like he weighed nothing at all, then slammed him back first into the padded wall. The impact made a sound that was softer than it should have been, thanks to the padding, but I saw Marcus's face contort in pain, saw the air rush out of his lungs. "Where do you think you are going, little mammal?" Venzak growled. Drukthar moved in close, using two of his arms to pin Marcus's shoulders against the wall while his legs kept him elevated. Marcus's feet dangled uselessly, kicking at nothing. "Please," Marcus managed to gasp out. "I do not want trouble." "Too late," Drukthar said. And then he pulled back his right primary fist, the one with the reinforced knuckle ridge that Krath developed specifically for combat, and drove it straight into Marcus's midsection. The human made a sound I had never heard before, this wet, choking gasp. His body tried to curl around the impact point, but Drukthar's other arms kept him pinned flat. That was when I finally started moving forward. That was also when I heard the voice from behind me. "Hey, just one word. Quiet, calm, cold as vacuum." I turned along with everyone else in that room to see who had spoken. Standing in the doorway was another human. Female, if I was reading the biological markers correctly. She was maybe 5 feet 6 inches tall, with dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She wore the standard academy training uniform, the kind with reinforced joints for combat practice. Her skin was tanned, scarred on the knuckles and forearms in ways that suggested she had not gotten those marks from academic pursuits. Her name, I would learn later, was Mira. At that moment, though, all I registered was the look on her face. Humans have this expression, this particular arrangement of facial features that translates across species as pure, concentrated danger. Eyes narrowed, jaw set, lips pressed into a thin line. Every muscle in her body was coiled tight, ready to explode into motion. She walked into the training room with steady, Measured steps. Not rushing, not hesitating, just moving with absolute purpose. I said hey, she repeated. Louder this time. You three, get your hands off him. Drukthar actually laughed. It sounded like grinding gears. He did not release Marcus, did not even turn fully to face her, just glanced over his shoulder with two of his eyes while the other two stayed fixed on his victim. This does not concern you, female, he said, putting extra contempt into that last word. Go back to whatever you were doing. Mira stopped about 15 feet away. Close enough to be part of the situation. Far enough to have room to maneuver. I recognized the positioning from tactical training, the kind of spacing a fighter uses when they are calculating attack vectors. That is, my friend. You are holding, she said, her voice still eerily calm. So yeah, it concerns me. Let him go and we can all walk away from this without anyone getting hurt. Then Zack actually snorted. Your friend? This pathetic little creature. And what exactly do you think you are going to do about it, tiny human? You are even smaller than he is. It was true. Mira probably weighed maybe 130 pounds at most, compared to the Krath, each of whom massed somewhere around 400 pounds of solid muscle and armored hide. She looked like an insect. A particularly stubborn, suicidal insect. Korvath turned to face her fully now, all four of his eyes focusing on this new source of entertainment. You cannot be serious. Go away before you get hurt. Mira tilted her head slightly, and I swear I saw her smile. Not a friendly smile. Not even close. It was the kind of smile predators make right before they strike. Hurt? She said. Oh, someone is definitely going to get hurt. I am just trying to decide if I am going to break your knees first or your elbows. Drukthar released Marcus, letting the smaller human crumple to the floor, gasping for air. All three Krath were focused on Mira now, clearly viewing her as a more interesting target. They spread out slightly, using the same encirclement tactics they had used on Marcus. You have made a serious mistake, human, Drukthar said, cracking his neck with a sound like snapping cables. We were just going to rough him up a little. But we are going to break. Mira rolled her shoulders, loosening up. Then she raised her fists in a fighting stance. I did not recognize something from human martial traditions. Yeah? She said, get in line. I should have called for backup right then. I really should have. Drukthar moved first, which was his second mistake of the evening. His first mistake was thinking Mira was bluffing. He lunged forward with his primary right arm, a grabbing motion designed to catch her by the torso and lift her off the ground, the same way Venzak had grabbed Marcus. It was a classic Krath intimidation move, effective against pretty much every species in the academy. Mira was not there when his hand arrived. She had dropped low, impossibly fast, sliding under his reach with a speed that made my four eyes struggle to track the movement. And as she went under, she drove her fist upward into the soft joint where Druktar's primary arm connected to his torso. The sound was spectacular. A meaty thud followed immediately by Drukthar's roar of pain. Krath have thick skin. Yes. Armored hide that can stop bullets. But joints are joints, and joints are always vulnerable. Mira had not punched his armor. She had punched the gap between armor plates, driving her knuckles into the sensitive nerve cluster that every Krath has in that exact spot. Drukthar staggered backward, his arm hanging limp and useless. The room went dead silent except for his pained breathing. Mira straightened up, rolling her shoulders again like she was just warming up. One down, she said pleasantly. Next, Venzak and Korvath exchanged glances. I could practically see them recalculating their assumptions about human fragility. Then Venzak snarled and charged. Now, Venzak was fast for a Krath. He crossed the distance in maybe 2 seconds, all 400 pounds of him moving like a freight hauler. Most species would have been pancaked. Mira sidestepped at the last possible instant, letting his momentum carry him past her. As he went by, she grabbed one of his secondary arms, planted her foot and used his own forward motion to slam him face first into the padded floor. The entire room shook from the impact. 2 down, Mira announced, though technically Venzak was already scrambling back to his feet, shaking his head to clear it. Korvath was more cautious. He circled to her left, trying to flank her while Venzak recovered. Smart tactics, really. Use your numerical advantage, attack from multiple angles. Mira kept both of them in her peripheral vision, rotating smoothly to maintain defensive positioning. Her breathing was elevated now, but still controlled, focused. Korvath feinted high with his primary arms. Mira shifted to defend. That was when he struck low with his secondary arms, trying to sweep her legs. She jumped, straight vertical, and his arms passed beneath her feet with maybe an inch to spare. While she was airborne, and I still cannot explain the physics of what happened next, she twisted her body and kicked out with both legs, catching Korvath square in his center eye cluster. His head snapped back. He howled, hands going to his face. Mira landed in a crouch, immediately rolling forward as Venzak tried to grab her from behind. She came up inside his reach, too close for him to use his strength effectively, and delivered a rapid series of strikes to his midsection. 3 punches, each one targeting a different pressure point. Venzak doubled over, wheezing. The other cadets watching from the doorway were making sounds now, shocked gasps. One of the Centauri was cursing in his native language. The Vulcan had started recording on his personal device. I was still frozen, trying to process what I was witnessing. Drukthar had recovered enough function in his arm to rejoin the fight, roaring with rage and pain. All 3 craft converged on Mira simultaneously, finally using proper coordinated tactics. This should have been the end. 3 against 1, massive size advantage, no room to maneuver. But humans, and I cannot stress this enough, do not follow normal biological rules when their adrenaline kicks in. Mira went low again, but this time she grabbed Venzak's leg and pulled hard. He went down. She used his falling body as a springboard, launching herself at Drukthar. She got her arm around his thick neck, locked her legs around his torso and squeezed. Drukthar thrashed, trying to dislodge her. Korvath grabbed at her, managed to get hold of her leg. Mira held on with one arm and punched Korvath in his already damaged eye cluster with her free hand. Once, twice, 3 times. He let go, stumbling backward. Drukthar finally managed to throw her off, slamming her into the wall. I heard the impact, heard her grunt of pain. That should have broken bones, should have ended the fight. She hit the floor, rolled and came up bleeding from a cut above her eyebrow. The blood ran down the side of her face. She was smiling. "That all you got?" she asked, breathing hard now but still steady on her feet. All 3 Krath were breathing heavily too. Drukthar's arm was still not functioning properly. Korvath could barely see out of his damaged eyes. Venzak was favoring his midsection where she had hit those pressure points. They looked at each other, looked at her, looked at each other again. I could see them doing the math. Yes, they could probably still take her down. Eventually, with enough effort. But she was going to hurt them. Badly. And she was not going to stop fighting until someone was unconscious or dead. Drukthar made a decision. He charged again, and the other 2 followed his lead. That was when I finally remembered I was supposed to be doing my job. And that was also when the rest of the human cadets arrived. The human cadets came through that doorway like a wave of compact, furious mammals. There were 6 of them, not physically imposing by galactic standards. The tallest was maybe 6 feet. The heaviest probably weighed 180 pounds. But they moved with coordinated purpose, and they moved fast. 2 of them went straight for Drukthar, hitting him low and high simultaneously. Another grabbed Korvath's arm and twisted it into a joint lock. I recognized from advanced combat training. The remaining 3 formed a protective barrier around Mira and Marcus. That was when my brain finally restarted and I remembered I was wearing a security uniform. I activated my comm unit, Security Emergency, Training Deck 7. Multiple cadets engaged in physical altercation, requesting immediate backup and medical response. Then I waded into the chaos, pulling my sonic disruptor from my belt. I fired 3 warning bursts into the air, the high-pitched shriek finally cutting through the sounds of the fight. "Everyone stop, now!" To their credit, the humans froze immediately. Professional discipline overriding their protective instincts. The Krath took a few more seconds, but they eventually stopped struggling too. I could hear running footsteps echoing down the corridor. My backup was arriving, along with what sounded like medical personnel. The scene that greeted them was something I will never forget. All 3 Krath were on the ground, breathing hard, covered in bruises and nursing various injuries. Drukthar's arm hung useless. Korvath's face was swelling around his damaged eye cluster. Venzak was clutching his ribs. The humans were still standing. All of them. Yes, they were breathing hard. Yes, Mira was bleeding from the cut above her eye and probably had bruised ribs from being thrown into the wall. A few others had scrapes and developing bruises, but they were standing, alert, ready to keep fighting if necessary. Marcus was sitting against the wall, still trying to catch his breath, staring at Mira with an expression of absolute disbelief. Chief Medical Officer Talneth rushed in with her team, immediately starting triage. She took one look at the Krath, then at the humans, then at me. "What in the name of the founders happened here?" she demanded. I opened my mouth, closed it, tried to figure out how to explain this in a way that would make sense in an official report. "The humans happened," I finally said, which was probably the least helpful answer I could have given but also the most accurate. Talneth started working on Korvath's eyes while her assistants handled the other injuries. She kept muttering under her breath in her native language, something that sounded like medical profanity. More security officers arrived. They started separating everyone, taking preliminary statements. The crowd of onlookers at the doorway had grown to maybe 20 cadets now, all of them staring with wide eyes and open mouths. One of the Centauri who had been watching from the beginning turned to his companion. "Did that really just happen?" he whispered. His friend just nodded, still speechless. The formal inquiry took place the next morning in Conference Room 3, which had the dubious honor of being the Academy's designated disciplinary hearing space. I was called to testify first, given that I had witnessed most of the incident. Commander Threlkis, a no-nonsense Corvani officer with 20 years of service, presided over the hearing. She listened to my account with her typical stern expression, occasionally making notes on her datapad. Then came the cadets. The Krath went first. Drukthar, his arm now in a regenerative brace, tried to spin the story as mutual combat, self-defense against aggressive humans. It fell apart quickly when the security footage from the training deck was reviewed, showing them cornering Marcus first. Commander Threlkis was not amused. When Mira's turn came, she walked in with that same calm, measured presence she had shown during the fight. The cut above her eyebrow had been sealed with medical adhesive. She sat down, folded her hands on the table, and waited. "Cadet Mira," Threlkis began, "you put 3 Krath cadets in the medical bay. Each of them outmassed you by several hundred pounds. Care to explain how that happened?" Mira shrugged. "They were hurting my friend. I stopped them. By fighting all 3 simultaneously. They did not give me much choice in the matter, ma'am." Threlkis leaned forward. "Your file says you grew up on Hadley's Hope, one of the early human colony worlds, frontier territory. That correct?" "Yes, ma'am. And it notes here that your father was a security contractor. Your mother was a combat medic. You were raised in what the file politely calls a challenging environment." Mira's expression did not change. "Hadley's Hope had some problems with raiders and hostile wildlife. You learn to handle yourself or you do not survive long. My parents made sure I learned." "I see." Threlkis tapped her datapad. Multiple human cadets responded to the fight. They came running from different parts of the station. How did they know to come help? For the first time, Mira smiled slightly. "We have a group comm channel. Emergency use only. I triggered it when I saw what was happening to Marcus. So you called for backup before engaging 3 opponents alone?" "No, ma'am. I called for backup while engaging them." "Multitasking." I saw Threlkis fight back. What might have been a smile. The Krath cadets claimed they did not understand human pack loyalty behaviors, that they thought Marcus was alone, undefended. Mira's expression hardened. "Then they learned something important about humans today. We do not abandon our own. Ever. You hurt one of us. You get all of us. That is not a pack loyalty behavior. That is just who we are." The hearing continued for another hour, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Krath received formal reprimands and probation for initiating the assault. Mira and the other humans received minor citations for excessive response, but those were more for appearances than anything else. When it was over, I saw Marcus waiting outside the conference room. He practically jumped on Mira when she emerged, babbling thanks and apologies in equal measure. "You did not have to do that," he said. "It could have killed you." Mira punched him lightly on the shoulder. "They were going to hurt you, Marcus." "Of course I had to do that. What kind of friend would I be otherwise?" Marcus looked like he might cry. He settled for a fierce hug instead. Word spread fast on a station like Helix 7. By evening meal, every cadet knew the story. The humans at the nutrition dispensary suddenly had a lot more personal space, respectful nods from species that had previously ignored them. So, what did I learn from all of this? Well, several things actually. First, humans are absolutely terrible at making rational threat assessments. Any sane species would have looked at 3 Krath, done the math, and found a diplomatic solution. Humans see someone hurting their friend and immediately jump to violence as a first resort, not a last one. It is both admirable and completely insane. Second, human pack bonding is no joke. We thought we understood social species behavior. We were wrong. When a human decides you are part of their group, they will walk through fire for you, literally. I have seen the reports from their colony worlds. They do not have a concept of acceptable losses when it comes to their people. Third, and this is the important one, never ever assume physical size tells you anything useful about human combat effectiveness. Their adrenaline response turns them into something that should not be possible according to standard biology. They ignore pain. They ignore injury. They just keep coming until the threat is neutralized or they are unconscious. The incident changed things on Helix 7. The casual bullying stopped almost overnight. Turns out when you establish that humans will absolutely fight back, and fight dirty and bring friends, other species suddenly remember their manners. Mira became something of a legend. I would see cadets from other species pointing her out in corridors, whispering to each other. Some with fear, most with respect. A few of the combat track instructors actually asked her to demonstrate human fighting techniques in advanced classes. She handled the attention with the same calm practicality she had shown during the fight. Did not let it go to her head. Just kept training, kept studying, kept being there for her friends. The Krath cadets, to their credit, learned their lesson. Drakthar actually approached Marcus 3 weeks later and offered a formal apology. Krath culture values strength, and apparently getting comprehensively beaten by someone a quarter your size while defending a friend counts as a display of strength worth respecting. Marcus and Mira became inseparable after that. Where you saw one, you usually saw the other. He helped her with engineering coursework. She taught him some of those terrifying combat techniques. They graduated together 2 years later, both with honors. I still work security on Helix 7. Still see new cadets arriving every cycle. Still break up the occasional fight. But things are different now. The humans are not the new kids anymore. They are not the weak ones who need to keep their heads down. They are the ones you do not mess with unless you want to learn a very painful lesson about Earthborn stubbornness. And me? I updated my incident response protocols. New rule. If humans are involved in an altercation, call for backup immediately. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Just call. Because humans, bless their violent little hearts, do not do anything halfway, especially not fighting. I saw Mira in the corridor yesterday, walking with Marcus and a few other humans, laughing about something. She caught my eye and gave me a small nod. I nodded back. Some lessons you only need to learn once.